Ever since she was young, Bocchi had been a loner, ignored by the masses. None of her classmates would even approach her, no matter whether they be at some fancy picnic or it's a plain old day at school. Though on one fateful day, little Bocchi happens to listen in on a band's interview that forever changes her life for good. Turns out, a member of that specific band used to be a loner, just the way Bocchi is now. Surprisingly though, joining a band worked wonders for him since it's a place where even introverts can shine. Wishing to land a similar fate herself, Bocchi instantly borrows her dad's guitar and doubles down on practice from that day onwards. The girl's hunger for fame and respect allows her to practice 6 hours a day all through middle school. Sadly though, despite being a pro at guitar, Bocchi fails to garner any attention after all these years thanks to her being shy and timid. Just like that, middle school passes by without Bocchi playing a single guitar note in public. In the end, she starts uploading videos of her playing guitar online under the alias Guitar Hero. Thankfully, the girl attains decent success there with her subscribers skyrocketing up to 30,000 soon enough. It's a pity that her social anxiety keeps her from publishing stuff under her real name. From the looks of it, poor Bocchi is forever doomed to stay as an anonymous star on the internet. One day though, the social outcast finally decides to either join a band or even better, formulate one of her own. For that purpose, Bocchi goes strolling around her high school with a guitar on her back. Unfortunately, despite her rocker chick attire, she's given a cold shoulder by all her classmates, who just continue about their business as usual without sparing a single glance. The gods finally bestow a merciful smile upon Bocchi as a cheerful blondie named Nijika bumps into Bocchi by miraculous happenstance soon enough. Long story short, Nijika is the founder of the Kessoku Band, and at the moment, she's in dire need of a decent guitarist. Being a social exile, Bocchi obviously finds it difficult to turn down any pleas for help. As a result, she soon ends up dragged into a club named Starry. Once there, Bocchi comes face to face with Ryou, the only other existing member of Kessoku Band besides Nijika herself. Once the intro part is over, Nijika instantly suggests playing their instruments together for once and see how well it goes. On the flip side, Ryou is left speechless after witnessing Bocchi beat her chest like a gorilla to better motivate herself for the upcoming trial run. Sadly enough, Bocchi blows the test run thanks to her being out of sync with the other two players. Both Nijika and Ryou make efforts to encourage Bocchi by pointing out how there's only going to be close friends at their first ever live concert. In the end, Bocchi agrees to give this whole band thing a decent shot. After all, not doing so may result in the loss of a lifetime opportunity. Afterwards, the conversation is coincidentally drawn towards Guitar Hero, with both Ryou and Nijika showering the anonymous guitarist with lots of praise. Of course, both are unaware that their new teammate, who by the way sucks at teamwork, is in fact the infamous Guitar Hero, and therefore is indirectly the target of all their lavish praise. Anyhow, Bocchi finally decides to play while she's holed up in a box. That way she can avoid being stared at by the audience and can perform effectively as a result. Besides, the social outcast is already quite accustomed to playing guitar in cramped spaces such as the cupboard back home. Therefore, playing from inside a box is no big deal at all. Unfortunately, being unable to see and coordinate with each other visually results in a poor performance at the concert. On the following day, Bocchi continues standing outside Starry for 15 minutes, or more simply because she's frightful of walking in all alone and being stared at by the many strangers present within the club. The sadistic Ryou feels quite entertained by witnessing Bocchi's miserable condition and wishes to enjoy it for a bit longer. Her fun is ruined after Nijika comes to Bocchi's rescue and together they all walk into the club. Once inside, Nijika states how today's agenda includes discussing the band's finances and quota. Simply put, the club provides a quota, such as the number 10 or so, to each band before a concert. Then, in case the audience number matches the quota assigned to them, there's no need to pay any extra fee for playing at the club. What's more, in case the number of audience exceeds the quota, the club and band simply split the profits in half with each other. On the flip side, fail to meet the quota and you get to cover the remaining expenses through your own personal budget. In short, performing at a club is basically a money pit, one destined to suck away all your savings. Of course, the only way out of that pit is to become popular enough with lots of raving fans. In the end, the resourceful Nijika suggests taking on a part-time job at the same club to fulfill their quotas and make both ends meet. Poor Bocchi is traumatized after hearing the prospects of having to take on a job at a club teeming with strangers, become a waitress, and she might just as well be put on death trail not long after, for the crime of creeping out her customers, of course. With that line of thought, the desperate girl is even willing to hand over wedding savings just for the sake of avoiding a part-time job. The money grubber Ryou doesn't bother with being polite and simply makes a lunge at the heckload of Bocchi's wedding savings. As expected though, Nijika instantly refuses to snatch away money reserved for such a precious matter, much to Ryou's regret. Anyhow, left with no other option, Bocchi agrees to go along with the flow and take on a job despite her unwillingness to do so. Fast forward a couple of hours and the insane girl is found taking an icy cold bath for 30 minutes straight. Later, she stays put in front of a blowing fan while dressed in her swimsuit. The agenda behind all these actions is to get sick and bedridden, of course, and then ultimately skip work the next day thanks to some legit excuse. Her hopes are shattered in pieces though, and the anxious girl departs for work in good health the next day, all thanks to her cursed luck, of course. While outside the club, Bocchi bumps into the scary manager, who's also Nijika's older sister. The dead serious manager is the polar opposite of her sister Nijika though, who's cheerful and chatty 24/7. Afterwards, Nijika gives Bocchi her first lesson on how to fill up drinks. Failing to memorize the locations of various drinks in a normal way, Bocchi instead starts infusing the knowledge inside her brain by means of singing and playing guitar. The manager, as well as a friend of hers, recognized Bocchi's voice as being similar with that of the mysterious guitar hero, but makes no comments. Nijika has no such epiphanies though, since she's already preoccupied with bringing Bocchi back to planet Earth. Later on during their shift, Bocchi, the social creep, refuses to interact with any of her customers. Heck, the scaredy cat even goes as far as to hand over drinks from beneath the table without showing her face or flashing any pretty smiles whatsoever. However, things take a turn for the better once she bears witness to another band's performance at the club that day. The girl obviously feels a ton of guilt after comparing their stellar display of teamwork and talent with her own band's crappy concert a couple of days back. Kessoku Band's first ever concert went to ruins, all thanks to her, of course. That said, Bocchi's definitely unwilling to let her bandmates taste the same listless performance yet another time. Hence, she finally musters up her courage and succeeds in flashing a shaky smile at an incoming customer. This makes Nijika truly happy, who then compliments Bocchi at having taken a step forward on the road to self-improvement. The praise has the opposite effect than intended though. Thing is, it may seem like a mere step for Nijika, but as for Bocchi, it felt as if she had trekked 1,000 miles in the freaking desert. In the aftermath though, Bocchi still feels rejuvenated and full of energy. With great misfortune, poor Bocchi becomes sick for real this time around and has to skip work for quite a number of days. Just when she had started enjoying herself and was getting the hang of things. Talk about bad luck. Now, although healed, Bocchi still feels a ton of guilt for slacking off these past few days and is unsure how to apologize to her bandmates. Just then, she overhears fellow schoolmates mentioning someone named Kita. Apparently, it's a girl with dual talents, someone who's got the voice of a nightingale and can play the guitar as well. An idea sparks in Bocchi's mind as a result. Thing is, Nijika had previously mentioned the need to recruit a vocalist for their band. Even better in the case a targeted person could play the guitar as well. Unfortunately, social anxiety catches her unprepared yet another time. With her legs shaking, Bocchi makes a run for the opposite direction instead of confronting Kita head-on. She then starts reciting a gloomy song after having snuck back into her secret hidey hole. In such a way, Bocchi expresses melancholy at her lack of social prowess, all the while being unaware of Kita eavesdropping from behind her. No doubt, Kita is soon awed by Bocchi's talent with the guitar and therefore requests for her mentorship in this regard. Being a victim of social anxiety, Bocchi obviously fails to refuse and takes her first ever student back towards the club. Strangely enough, Kita's of the mind to slip away instantly after learning the band's name. The redhead has no such opportunity though, since Nijika walks over to say hello before she can leave. After a melodramatic turn of events, Bocchi learns how Kita is indeed the runaway guitarist who ditched Nijika and Ryou before their first ever concert previously. Back in the present, the embarrassed Kita admits being a noob when it comes to playing guitar. That said, in the past, she only volunteered to be Kessoku Band's guitarist so as to get closer to Ryou, a senior whom she admires. Sadly enough, Kita couldn't maintain the status quo for long and had to tuck her tail between her legs and run away before truth came to light. To atone for her sins, Kita offers to toil hard as a maid for the club for that specific evening. Soon enough, her outgoing personality wins the hearts of her fellow co-workers, and she's even entrusted with more complex jobs on her very first day. Plus, Kita also manages to garner a ton of compliments on her attire and communication skills, etc. All this is witnessed by Bocchi, whose eyes are going red with envy. As for Ryou, she just keeps staring at Bocchi's various weird endeavors with the same curiosity one has when eyeing a circus elephant or some lab test experiment. No doubt Bocchi has always been the best source of entertainment for the sadistic Ryou. Bocchi finally gets an opportunity to redeem her lost good name a while later. Simply put, Nijika asked her to teach Kita all there is to know about filling drinks, etc. Thinking the task at hand to be a piece of cake at first, poor Bocchi learns her lesson soon enough. Guess what? Even such a simple task is made difficult, with the coffee being spilled over once Kita starts staring at Bocchi with eyes ablaze with passion and concentration. Anyhow, with her shift over, the still guilty Kita is on her way to leave forever when Bocchi stops her in a rather clumsy fashion. Fast forward a couple of days, and Kita's working alongside Bocchi and the rest as a permanent worker at the club. Later on, Kita admits being pathetic at playing guitar, since it won't produce the correct sounds no matter how she plays the strings. Upon further investigation, Bocchi and the rest ascertain how Kita truly is a legendary sucker when it comes to playing guitar. To lend her fellow bandmate a helping hand, Ryou buys off the bass from Kita's hands using her last bit of pocket money. A couple days later, Nijika convenes a band meeting and declares the cheerful Kita as the band's minister of social media. Her job is to post fun photos daily on their Instagram account so as to amass and engage more followers. As for Nijika herself, she's to handle the band's finance department. Finally, both Ryou and Bocchi are simultaneously charged with drafting music as well as lyrics for their upcoming concert. The weight of her fellow bandmates' expectations almost threatens to crush Bocchi's spirit. As a result, she continues to dilly-dally for quite a number of days. The problem here is not churning out remarkable lyrics for their song. Truth be told, the lyrics alone definitely are no big deal for Bocchi, who spent most of her mid-school breaks jotting down whatever lyrics came to her mind in her diary. The hard part is to have the lyrics connect with Kita's cheerful and bright personality. That's certainly a bummer since Bocchi may be a pro at creating distressful songs and lyrics, but the miserable girl is certainly out of her league when having to jot down rhymes containing words such as sunshine, friendship, and love. At one instance, she even tries putting herself in Kita's shoes and truly reflecting on her fellow bandmate's personality. The idea surely invokes a ton of trouble for her. As it happens, the weird and out-of-the-norm displays make her family members rather suspicious and worried about a ghost having overtaken Bocchi's body. It takes a lot of convincing on Bocchi's part to prevent her mother from calling an exorcist. The next day, all band members meet outdoors for a camera shoot so as to better promote their style. Sadly though, none of the selfies taken are good enough. Ryou suggests for them to all copy her dead series expression for the sake of better quality. The result is surely a disappointment, since they all seem to be mourning at some loved one's funeral in the photo. Finally, Kita's idea to snap a mid-jump photo seals the deal, and the photo shoot is declared a success. A couple days later, Bocchi finally decides to seek Ryou's counsel regarding the cursed lyrics issue. As expected, Bocchi's general lyrics fail to impress Ryou with her high standards, and is called out for her BS phrases. The usually reserved Ryou then switches to a way more considerate attitude and suggests for Bocchi to write whatever lyrics come to her heart. Despite feeling touched, Bocchi still feels concerned about following Ryou's advice. After all, the bitter lyrics from her heart are specialized towards throwing others into a deep pit of worry and depression. It's certainly a poor match for Kita's outgoing and chirpy personality. Ryou's next words wash away the last bit of worry from Bocchi's heart though. She simply points out how it may indeed be hilarious for a normie like Kita to sing Bocchi's gloomy lyrics. However, merging the voices and personalities of various unique individuals is exactly the kind of band they're aiming to create. Hence, no need to shy away from cursing her entire audience to hell in her downer lyrics ever. Bocchi allows Ryou's advice to sink in truly, and is also won over by her fellow bandmates' kindness of heart. The admiration goes to hell soon after, once Bocchi is forced to pay the bill thanks to Ryou being penniless herself. Turns out, the sleazy girl had gotten sick of eating weeds all day long. Therefore, she tricked Bocchi into treating her to such an extravagant meal in exchange for a round of stellar advice. Anyhow, Bocchi finally pulls through the whole lyrics thing only a day later. Her words truly are miserable, according to the judgment of Nijika and others. This means that not many in their audience may be able to connect with her words. However, those who do will indeed become raving fans, ones who may stop at nothing to elevate Kessoku Band to the heights of success.